What's up, guys? I got a crazy video coming at you about how to grow 20% systematically year over year. And really the only two things that you need to worry about is car count and gross sale per hour or average written repair order. I'll explain those to you in just a minute. We always want to compare the same week to the same week. So if you're in week number 6 of the year, which I think we are, you want to compare week number 6 of last year to this year's week number 6 on your car count. Now, car count is king. You guys know that. There's a video just about that. Why car count is king? Because without car count, you don't have a business. You don't go out of business because you have too many cars. You go out of business because you don't have any cars. That's literally the main thing. So if your car count is less, you are going in reverse gear. The goal that we want to have is a minimum of 10% increase car count year over year. So if you have the same week number 6 last year, so you had 100 cars, you should in theory have 110 cars. There's some caveats to that. We'll get into those later. That's, caveats on broke versus oil change. But generally speaking, if you're a stabilized store, you should grow by 10% year over year. And once you hit the maximum amount, let's say you have a store that's doing 140 cars out of 5 bays, then we want to start reeling back on the oil changes and actually do more broke cars. So in that case, you have some stores right now that are doing 140 cars out of 6 bays. And what we do is we actually reduce their car count purposefully. And the reason we do that is we take oil changes away and let them have more broke cars. Because in theory, you should want to do 100% broke cars every week and do 100 cars a week. But that's very difficult, which is why new stores will have more oil changes and more stabilized stores will have more broke cars. And ultimately, the goal is to have 100 plus broke cars a week and no oil changes. Never seen it happen. But once you get the car count, then you optimize. But the goal is to grow 10% on car count year over year minimum. Why? Because we buy 30% cars every single month. So that makes sense. Again, really simple. If your car count's not going up, you're screwed. The second, you have two options on. You can go GSPH route or you can go the AWRO route. GSPH, as you guys know, is gross sale per hour. There's a video on that. You can watch it, and that's the true price of an hour in your store. And the reason I say GSPH is super simple is because we just say, all right, what's inflation? Inflation, we all agree, is between 5 and 7%. I know the government said it's 3. No one's buying that crap. So let's say if it's 7%, then your GSPH should go up as a minimum of 7% because that's just keeping up with inflation, guys. If you had a $300 GSPH last year, same week, you can look it up. This year you should have 7% more, which would be 321. Now how you focus on that is, again, there's a video, but it's can job, part sheet, isolations, and speed. The other route is to go AWRO, which is average written repair order, or also overall tech quote, overall quote. And that's, again, there's a video on that as well. But all it is your total number of quoted divided by total number of cars. Generally, once again, but guess what it is? 7% inflation. So if your quote last year, same week, which by the way, the formula for that is total quote divided by total cars. Or the other way to do it is take your average RO divided by close ratio. Those are two different ways. So let's say your average RO last year was $500 and your average close for the week close ratio was 50%. Then you do 500 divided by 50%. That gives you a $1,000 average quote. This year, you should be at minimum 1070 because it's 7% inflation. If you do the math, and as long as you keep your close ratio at 50%, which by the way is another way to go up, is just increase your close ratio. But close ratio is one of those things that stays pretty steady at 50% over shop to shop industry across the board. So if your close ratio stays 50% and you just quote 7% more, you will generally close 3.5% more minimum, right? But also that'll increase 7% on your ARO because you'll basically close half of that and your ARO was half to begin with. So essentially your ARO would go up to 535, which is 7% increase, which will keep up with inflation. So keep in mind, you can grow either in GSPH 7% increase or ARO increase. And what I love is do both, which will give you a 14% increase just on the ARO side, plus 10% increase on what? The car count side. So if you do 10% increase on cars, 7% increase on GSPH, 7% increase on average quote or average RO, you have a 14% increase total there between the GSPH and the average quote. Your ARO will go up by 14%, 7 plus 7. So your total increase is 14% ARO, 10% car count for a total of 24% overall. Or if you just do one of those two, you still get 7% on the GSPH or ARO side, AWRO side, and then 10% on car count. So you will grow between 17 to 24% depending on how well you do. And generally we see a 17 to 20% growth almost guaranteed using this method. So once again, go back to the same week, last year, week 6, and check your car count, your GSPH, average quote, and ARO. And if you can increase what I said by 10% on the car count, GSPH by 7%, average quote by 7%, you will grow by 17 to 24%. I hope that video helps, that this video helps. And again, very simple. True growth is always in car count and in quote. If you can do that, you will absolutely crush it. And you know how to increase quote and increase GSPH. It's always going back to the basics, which is the isolation sheet and the circle of sales. See you guys on the next one.